You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
Parents, did you know there are podcasts for kids? I'm here to tell you about mine, What If World. I answer what if questions with wild and funny stories. Tell them how What If World has a huge cast of magical characters. Okay, and how each story has a positive message. Yeah, What If World is great for bedtime, car rides, or whenever kids just need to unplug. You can find What If World on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen.
The Past and the Curious is perfect for families looking for a history-focused podcast everyone can enjoy together. I'm professional museum educator, author, and musician Mick Sullivan, and I have been creating The Past and the Curious for 6 years. There's humor, rich context, and surprises in every episode. There's dozens of stories about survivors and heroes and villains, and a lot of underwear. Find us in all of the usual podcast places. The Past and the Curious with Mick Sullivan.
Recorded in Chicago, Illinois, with your hosts, Ken, Matt, Neil, and Jeff. This is Triviality.
Hello and welcome to Triviality, the game where a lack of seriousness meets a little bit of knowledge. This is Ken. We have Neil in the studio.
Yep.
Jeff is here, but he's going to be a silent partner today.
We duct taped his mouth closed.
That's correct. We have Matt in DC as per usual, and we just have a plethora of guests. So should we just jump right in, get right to it, Neil? What do you think?
I think so. I think we should.
All right. Well, let's start with our in-house guest here in the studio. Thank you for stopping by. We have David Nelson. He's from Brooklyn, but in Chicago today to visit and do some work. And he's a Savage Superstar. Can't thank you enough for that. And welcome to the studio.
Thanks very much. It's good to be back here in Chicago and to be on this side of the Zoom recording once.
Yeah, not the first time that you visited us here, but we're always happy to see you. And why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I work in New York as a lawyer for a Japanese company, or the U.S. subsidiary of a Japanese company. I'm here in town to visit our Chicago office and play a little trivia.
All right, that's right. Nice to see you again, as I said. And let's dig in with our other guests. First, we have Ben Cuba from Boston, Massachusetts. He is an Oakland 5 supporter, and we thank him for that. Please tell us a little bit about yourself, Ben.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. It's a true honor to be on the Triviality podcast. I've been listening to you all since 2020. I work as a dance class accompanist and a ballet piano player. I play for dance classes as my job. I play at Boston Conservatory and Emerson College. I play for their dance classes, but I also play in a band of my own. I play in a band called Midnight Motion. We play all around Massachusetts and New England. And I host a stand-up comedy show as well, and in Boston as well. And I host trivia as well at a nearby brewery, Aeronaut Brewery. So I do all those things.
That all sounds like so much fun.
It does, yeah. And just speaking from your time as an accompanist, what's your favorite piece to play?
Oh, like for a ballet class and all that?
Yeah, sure.
I think as right now, so in ballet, I like to play other things besides the classical repertoire, and I like to make pop songs work as well. So right now, Easy Like a Sunday Morning by the Commodores is my favorite thing to play.
Wow.
Oh, that's cool.
Very nice.
We always have all this discussion before the show, and then Neil hits our guest with something we did not talk about to really throw him off at the beginning.
But a great answer nonetheless.
No, I love it.
And finally, we have our host to introduce here. It's Bryce Thompson. He's from Brantford, Ontario, Canada. He's a Canadian 7.50 supporter, I guess we're going to say. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks so much. My name's Bryce Thompson. I'm from Brantford, Ontario, Canada, which is a small town about an hour west of Toronto. I live here with my wife, Alex, and my 2 cats and our new puppy that we just got. I work at an automotive plant. I am a paint shop inspector, which basically means that I watch paint dry for a living. So I listen to a lot of podcasts at work. Most recently, I probably only started listening to Triviality 3 months ago, but I've probably listened to almost 200 episodes already. So
Wow.
thank you so much to you guys for making my
Would you
shifts go
say
by.
that we're more entertaining than watching paint dry?
Absolutely. It's
All
really no
right, you
contest.
heard it here.
You should grab some audiobooks too. That's just
I do
you
have
got to break up the trivia a little bit.
I do have a follow-up that we did not talk about beforehand for Bryce as well, just to throw him off his feet here. What is the best paint color to listen to Triviality with?
Oof. Probably electric yellow.
Oh
Ooh,
yeah,
I
that would be
like
great.
it.
Very nice.
100%.
Look at my pants. They're yellow.
They're kind of
Oh, look
electric
at that.
yellow.
All right. Well, we have chosen our teams beforehand. Matt is going to be playing with Ben, and Ben, your last name is Cuba, so you had a great team name.
Yes, we'll be Team Cuban Missile Crisis. Team Missile Crisis. Sounds good to me.
Something Cuban Missile Crisis. We got it.
And Neil, what are you and Dave going to be today?
Well, we were going back and forth between Dave of Pigs, another conflict, but I think we're going to go with the Cuban Sandwich Crisis.
And what was that?
It was a very hard fought battle in a diner when two opposing families were trying to create the perfect Cuban, and they only had one jar of Dijon mustard, but they didn't want to support the French, so they're looking for a different type of
That's a
mustard.
crisis.
So
Yeah, 100%.
All right. David says his favorite rules is the Gilbert Gottfried read, so let's toss it to Gil.
Triviality podcast is 2 rounds of 20 questions worth 10 points apiece. At halftime, there's a special swing round by this week's host. In the final round, players wager points they've earned for a chance to become the cream of the crop.
I am the cream.
All right. That's all we need to do to play the game, so let's get going. Bryce, take it away.
All right, thanks so much. All right, so round 1 of today's game is called Oh Canada. So me being the Canadian host here, we're gonna have 10 questions all about Canadian geography, people, places, things. So we will see how how everyone does here today. All right, so
10
I'm
questions about Ryan Reynolds.
Okay, so question number 1, the category is It's Canada's Game. Hockey is Canada's national winter sport and is enjoyed religiously by thousands of people across this great nation. Currently, over 53% of NHL players are Canadian, and Canadian-based teams account for a total of 43 NHL championship wins. Despite those numbers, we've been on a bit of a dry spell as of late. What Canadian-based team was the last to win the Stanley Cup, doing so in 1993, denying Wayne Gretzky his 5th Stanley Cup ring? 5 bonus points if you can also tell me what Canadian team most recently made the Stanley Cup Finals in a non-COVID altered season, nearly destroying their own city after a devastating Game 7 loss to the Boston Bruins in 2011.
Yes, I recall.
All right. Well, Dave wrote down some cities here, teams, and I don't know much about hockey, and I'm just going to trust Dave.
Ben, you a big hockey guy?
Oh, I'm a huge hockey fan. I used to play hockey back in the day. Huge Bruins
Of course
fan.
you have. You played hockey, you play the piano, you do anything, it seems like. So that's pretty amazing.
You know, I try my best.
He's a hopscotch grand champion.
What were you thinking for the 93 team?
Okay, my best guess would be the Montreal Canadiens because I know they've won quite a few cups in their day. I think they have the record for the most Stanley Cup wins. And I know for a fact that it's the Vancouver Canucks for the bonus points. So I'm going to lock it. I would definitely lock in with the Vancouver Canucks for the bonus points. And I'm fairly certain it's...
As a Blackhawks fan of that era, it was very fun to watch the Canucks lose. They were our biggest rival at the time. We hated the Sedin twins the most. Those were in Luongo, obviously. And yeah, 93.
Nice guy, though.
Oh,
apparently.
I've heard that. I'm pretty sure you're right with the Canadians, so we can lock in with Montreal Canadiens and Vancouver Canucks.
And despite knowing less than them about hockey, we came up with the same answers. Canadians and Canucks.
All right. Well, full points to both teams. The correct answers there were the Montreal Canadiens defeating the Los Angeles Kings in 1993, and Vancouver almost destroying their entire city after losing to Boston in Game 7. Well done, guys. Fun fact, my Toronto Maple Leafs have not won since the year my mom was born, so I've been waiting a long time
Yeah.
for that.
This is the year.
Well,
That's what they say.
they're one win. They're
Yeah,
one win away.
yeah, we've been one win away before. All right. Question number 2 is called Women in Politics. By now, I'm sure many people are familiar with the story of Liz Truss, who holds the distinction of Britain's shortest serving prime minister after a whopping 7 weeks in office. Lasting slightly longer than Liz was which Canadian prime minister, who spent 132 days in the position? She was the first and only woman to serve as Prime Minister of Canada, taking over after Brian Mulroney in February of 1993. She was handily defeated in the next election, in which her Conservative Party got absolutely bowled over in the party's worst ever election defeat.
Okay, we had a discussion here. We think we nailed it, and we'll just wait for the other team to answer, and we'll give ours.
All right, Ben. We were spot on in 1993 about the Canadians. Were we spot on about their prime minister? Do you have any idea?
Well, 93 is the year of my birth, so
Okay.
I wasn't around too long for this event that transpired.
Hmm.
I do know of this. I did hear about this on a video once, but if they're guessing Catherine O'Hara, I'll guess Annie Murphy. So I can't pull the name either.
Seems fair. We're gonna lock in with that.
Yeah, we'll go with Annie Murphy.
Okay, they're going with Annie Murphy, which is funny because we think the answer was who should have been prime minister, and we locked in with Catherine O'Hara, so it's a Schitt's Creek affair today.
All right. Well, some great guesses there. Unfortunately, no points on that question. There was a slight hint in there when I said bowled over. I'd be remiss if I didn't put a bowling for soup hint in here. When I think of soup, the first thing I think of is Campbell, and the correct answer is the Right Honorable Kim Campbell.
Oh, okay, it's coming back.
All right, moving on to question 3, and the category is Not Everything is Bigger in Texas. Plenty of small towns across North America are known for having incredibly large statues of everyday items, from the world's largest rocking chair in Casey, Illinois, to the 12-foot tall biggest ball of twine in Darwin, Minnesota. In Canada, none are possibly more well known than a statue in Sudbury, Ontario, depicting what monetary unit? It features a giant head of King George VI on one side and a maple leaf with the date of its completion inscribed on the other. Sudbury is also home to the deepest mine, which harvests material used in creating this currency.
All right, I'm just going to trust Dave this entire game because he's much smarter than I am, and we're going to lock in.
He does a lot of travel too.
He does. He's a world traveler, a traveling Wilbury, if you will, traveling Dave Barry.
Yeah,
Still
if
haven't
you
seen
will.
that ball of twine though.
So Ben, you thinking a loonie, a toonie? What do we got here?
I don't know. I was originally thinking a gold sovereign, but
Okay.
I don't know, a pound, a Canadian dollar. If we're looking for a unit of currency, maybe they
Yeah.
mine gold in this area of Canada, but
I mean, there was a lot of gold in the Yukon, and there's probably more gold up in Canada. So you said the gold sovereign?
that's what comes to mind right away.
Well, that is better than anything I'll have. So we'll lock in with gold sovereign.
Yeah, being a trivia geek is sometimes not nerdy enough for me. So I'm also really into coins. And I'm pretty sure I've seen a picture of this. I think this is a gigantic, massive nickel.
All right, and points to Cuban sandwich crisis on that question. The correct answer is a nickel. It is a giant nickel in Sudbury, Ontario. Alrighty, question number 4 is in Canadian records. Canada has produced plenty of top-notch musical talent, from the likes of Neil Young and Celine Dion to more recent exports such as Justin Bieber and Shawn Mendes. Arguably, the most relevant recently is this artist from Scarborough, Ontario, whose real name is Abel Makonnen Tesfaye. He was recently honored in March of 2023 by Guinness World Records, becoming the first artist to reach 100 million monthly listeners on Spotify. He's enjoyed every day by over 111 million monthly listeners on the popular music platform. 30 million ahead of his closest competitor.
Okay, luckily, Dave and I both know the real name of many different artists, and this one clicked right away. We're locking in.
Ben, are you more of a weekday listener or maybe more of a weekend listener to music?
Oh, I'm more of a weekend listener.
Yeah. Yeah. Where
Yes,
I believe he was discovered by Drake. I think he was in Drake's record label or whatever when he came up. So yeah, definitely The Weeknd.
He punched Adam Sandler in that one movie.
I was going to say, yeah, he got into fisticuffs with Adam Sandler.
Just like
and
Wait, really?
also
What movie was that?
Uncut Gems.
Uncut Gems.
Oh yeah, of course. That movie was amazing. I love that movie. You're right. He
Uncut
is in that.
Gems.
Kevin
Yep, we
Garnett
went
plays
The Weeknd
himself.
as well.
The Weeknd. Kevin Garnett, so good.
Yeah, so I think he was on Drake's record label for a bit, but then they had some sort of beef and he went off and started his own record label. Yeah, the correct answer is The Weeknd. Great job, guys.
Was the beef that The Weeknd is cool as far as we know, and Drake is a total douchebag?
I can't answer that question, but that may have had something to do with it.
That's beef.
Alrighty. Question number 5. Category is Northern Lights camera action. Canada has provided the backdrop to plenty of TV shows and movies over the years, even here in my hometown of Brantford, Ontario. From the desolate downtown used as the eerie setting for Silent Hill, to the seedy Sherwood Motel occupied by the Rose family in Schitt's Creek. Brantford was recently nominated for a Location Managers Guild International Award for providing the setting for which Hulu television series. This show, created by Bruce Miller, used various Brantford locations to depict a version of downtown Chicago in a futuristic and dystopian world.
Yeah, so my best guess is The Handmaid's Tale. It's a show on Hulu, one of my favorite shows and my favorite book. And I remember seeing, I do remember seeing Bruce Miller's name in the credits. And there are scenes in this show in Chicago, and the show and story is definitely dystopian. So I would lock in with The Handmaid's Tale.
All right, locked in.
We weren't too sure on this one. We locked in with Station 11. We don't even know if it's on Hulu.
All right, yeah, and points there to Cuban Missile Crisis. The correct answer is The Handmaid's Tale.
All right, that concludes the first 5 questions. Score is 35-35, so it's a tie.
All right, question 6. The category is Not So Canadian Inventors. Alexander Graham Bell is credited with the invention and patenting of the telephone in 1876, right here in my hometown of Brantford, Ontario. The Bell homestead where he once lived is now a popular local attraction, and Brantford even bears the nickname of the Telephone City. While some locals may think that he was born and raised here, he was actually born in what European country in 1847? He passed away at the age of 75 in a Canadian province which shares a Latin variation of the name of that very country.
We are locked in over here.
Ooh, locked in very quick. I don't know much about Alexander Graham Bell. That's all I have.
I'm thinking about the Canadian provinces and ones that are kind of Latinized, and the one that came to mind is Nova Scotia, which is like New Scotland. So my best guess would be Scotland.
That is a wonderful line of thinking. We're going to lock in with Scotland.
I held hands with Dave. I wrote the city. He wrote the country. I'll let Dave say it.
We went with Old Scotland.
Yeah, great reasoning there by Ben, and great job both teams. Correct answer there was Scotland. The province that he passed away in was Nova Scotia, which does translate to New Scotland. Well done. All right, question number 7 is It's Called Football. Alphonso Davies made Canadian history, becoming the first Canadian goal scorer in World Cup history for the team, unfortunately in a 4-1 losing effort against Croatia. Davies made his pro debut with the Vancouver Whitecaps of the MLS at the early age of 16 before transferring to what European footballing giant in 2018? This team has won 32 national titles as well as an impressive 6 Champions League trophies, most recently in 2020. It was Davies' first year as a steady member of their starting 11, playing alongside the likes of Thomas Muller and Robert Lewandowski.
All right, we're going to give a little shout out to our friend Matt Doherty from the Benchwarmers Trivia Podcast. This is his favorite team, and we're going to lock in.
All right. I think Manchester United is the one that came to mind. That's the team. I don't know much about Premier League or kind of the club teams over in Europe, but all my friends who love that stuff always talk about Man United. So
hmm
that's what I wrote down.
Well, the Premier League's different than the Champions League. That is,
Oh,
I think that's
okay.
it's slightly different. That has all of the German and the German football teams, and then some of the I forget what they're called, but they have the Spanish leagues and all the other kind of things. I think this one's Bayern Munich. I think is what it is. That's the top club in Germany, and I'm pretty sure that that's where he played. So
I
if
trust
you're
you
okay,
wholeheartedly, Matt. I
yeah,
trust
we
you
can lock in.
wholeheartedly.
That was a lot of info.
Yeah, we can lock in with that. Bayern Munich.
Yeah, Dave wrote the same right away. We said Bayern Munich.
Yeah, so I wish that Davies played for Manchester United because they're my club. But
Okay.
unfortunately, no. The correct answer is, in fact, Bayern Munich. Well done, guys. Okay, moving on to question 8, and the category is a lot of lakes. There are literally millions of lakes in Canada. In fact, there are more lakes within Canada than the rest of the world combined. The most well known of these lakes are the 5 Great Lakes, which cover over 200,000 square kilometers of area. All of these lakes have coastlines within the USA, but only 2 of the Great Lakes border only one US state. Which 2 Great Lakes are they, and what states do they border? You'll get 5 points for each correct lake and US state combination.
All right. I think Ontario and just New York. I think I'm confident about Lake Ontario just bordering New York for some reason.
Hmm I agree. I know it's not Michigan because Michigan is both Michigan and Illinois and various other states. I think Superior is Wisconsin and Michigan. I think it touches the Uper there. Um, my other guess would be Huron. I
My
think
other
Lake
guess was going to
Huron
be
is
Huron.
yeah. I think that one only touches the back part of Michigan because Erie is Ohio and Pennsylvania. I think.
Yeah, Erie has a little bit of Pennsylvania. I remember that in Ohio.
Yeah, so we can lock in with Ontario and New York and Huron with Michigan.
And I think there's a little Erie in Indiana as well, Matt.
No, it's not available on any streaming service, so unfortunately not.
Dave, this was all you.
Well, eerily enough, we came up with the same answers.
Okay, and great reasoning there, guys. You guys got it bang on. The correct answers were Ontario bordering New York and Lake Huron bordering Michigan. All right, question number 9, and the category is liquid gold. Canada produces more than 80% of the world's maple syrup, exporting over $360 million worth of syrup around the world each year. Over 90% of the Canadian production of maple syrup comes from what Canadian province? Its southern neighbor, Vermont, is the largest U.S. producer of maple syrup, producing 6 million gallons less than its Canadian counterpart.
All right, we're in agreement over here.
All right. So I'm familiar with Vermont's maple production. I'm sure you are too, being an East Coaster. Do you know which province is right above it?
Yes, my roommate is actually from the great state of Vermont and loves the maple syrup, and he's from the Canada border, right near Montreal. So I'm going to go with Quebec.
And Penskosay, Quebec.
And points to both teams. The correct answer is Quebec. Great job,
Oh,
guys.
look how much we know about Canada.
Are you guys talking about Quebec?
All right, and the final question of this round is called A Long Way from Broadway. One of Canada's most successful productions to hit Broadway and theaters across the globe was this musical, first produced in 2013 at Sheridan College. The musical is based on a true story in which 38 international flights bound for Eastern North American destinations were ordered to be grounded in the small town of Gander, Newfoundland, following the horrific attacks of 9/11. Characters from this musical bear names of the actual residents of this small Newfie town, who took in the over 7,000 stranded passengers and made them feel at home. The musical stands as a great reminder of the capacity of human kindness, even in the worst of situations.
As soon as you said Broadway in Canada, I wrote down a musical. Dave agreed. We locked in.
I'm very familiar with this one. Do you know the answer to this one?
Yes, and I have to thank
Oh, you're a
my
musical
musical
guy.
theater.
Come on.
I have to thank my musical theater students at Emerson and Boston Conservatory because I believe the show has come from away.
I will agree with your students at Emerson. I did visit there one time and had a Smash Brothers tournament there. Great school. Come from away.
We also said come from away.
And once again, points to both teams. Great job, guys. In playtesting, that was actually my hardest question other than the Kim Campbell one. So great job at getting that one.
All right, after 10 questions, it's 85 to 85, and I'm impressed because my ass would be getting kicked in this game. Absolutely kicked. So, congrats. What's in store for the swing round?
All right, so today's swing round, we've got a classic game of Tribond. Tribond meaning what do these three things have in common? A couple of things to note for this. All of the answers are going to be one-word answers. Also, some of the answers might be homophones, meaning words that sound the exact same but are spelled differently and or mean different things. So for example, if I gave you a clue that included a shoe and a 2020 Disney film, the answer there would be soul, either spelled S-O-L-E, as in the soul of a shoe, or soul, S-O-U-L, as in the Disney film.
Cool. Little twist on the game. I like it.
Yeah, I like it.
So some of them are like that. Some of them are just like normal Tribond. So all three words will be spelled the same, meaning the same thing. Okay, so let's start with number 1. Michael Bradley, James T. Kirk, Chris Evans. Number 2, a game of poker, a cruise ship, Alexander Hamilton to George Washington. Number 3, The Big Bang Theory, Inspector Gadget, The Proud Family. Number 4, currency, Pillsbury Products, Homer Simpson. Number 5, Aaron Ekblad, Mel Blanc, Chadwick Boseman. Number 6, a website, Sesame Street, a Jackbox Party Pack. Number 7, a scooter, an Arkansas University, a barber. Number 8, a computer monitor, an obstructed hockey goaltender, a TSA agent. Number 9, a bad golfer, Avatar: The Last Airbender, Brett Favre. Number 10, Colin Kaepernick, The Young and the Restless, Triviality, the podcast.
Love it. Definitely picking up what you're laying down on some of those. And our teams will be considering these Tribonds, and we'll be right back after these messages.
What do you get when you take two childhood friends with a passion for unexplored history and a whole lot of booze?
You get the goofiest game in history, Queen's Podcast.
Hi, I'm Nathan.
And I'm Katie, and we're the host of Queen's Podcast.
Join us while we spill the tea on women from history.
We get into all kinds of stories here, like biographies of lesser-known figures. For instance, Saida Al-Hura, powerful pirate queen.
To the stories you might already know, like Marie Antoinette or Cleopatra, but with a fun twist.
Each queen is paired with a cocktail that'll totally get you in the mood to hear fun, juicy, and dramatic stories from history.
Because history is so much more than just dudes on a battlefield, and we believe that the female perspective and roles are just as deserving of their time in the spotlight.
Right. So come get to know these queens. Find us wherever you get your podcasts.
Cheers.
Hey, it's Otis Gray. Do you have trouble falling asleep? Well, you should check out this podcast called Sleepy. It's where I read old classics and help you fall asleep.
Best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom.
And that's it. So get tucked in, fluff up the cool side of your pillow, and take a one-way train down to Sleepy Town. Unless you're driving, then please don't listen to Sleepy. New episodes go out every Sunday, so you can get refreshed for your week. Subscribe to Sleepy wherever you get your podcasts. Sweet dreams.
And we are back with our answers. Neil was elbow deep pulling some of these out of you-know-where, so we'll see how he did. First, we want to talk really quick about our patrons. We can't thank you all enough. We have several of them on the show today. And Neil, tell us how people can become patron supporters.
Well, the easiest way is you can go to patreon.com/Triviality Podcasts. And as we've been saying lately, for as little as $1 a month, you get all of our newer episodes ad-free, which is pretty exciting. Or you can just listen at your favorite app, whether that's Spotify or Overcast, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. But for as little as $5 a month, you get unlocked audio bonuses. We have over 40 hours of bonus content, which includes crop drops, which are Ask Me Anything style episodes, and also just regular Patreon bonuses, which we try to do about 15 questions or so and play them just like a pub trivia experience.
5 years of backlog of bonus
There's a lot of
episodes
bonus
on Patreon.
on there.
I guess it's 5 years. Yeah, you're right.
And then there's all the physical treasures you can get for other tiers.
That's right. Yeah, just for signing up at $5, you'll get some stickers from us and a nice thank you letter from us, just helping us support the show. And then everything else above that is posters, boxes, all that good stuff. So, just go to patreon.com/Triviality Podcast and join Bryce, Dave, and Ben in helping support our show.
Yeah, please consider it because it really does help us out and carry the show forward. So, Bryce, let's get those tribons one more time and see how these fellas did.
All right, guys. So let's start again with question number 1. The clues were Michael Bradley, James T. Kirk, Chris Evans.
This one, we said, "Oh, Captain, my Captain." So we said Captain.
And we followed in the Walt Whitman trend, and we said Captain as well.
Yeah, great job, guys. Michael Bradley being the ex-US soccer captain and also the captain of my Toronto FC. James T. Kirk obviously being Captain Kirk, and Chris Evans being Captain America. That correct answer there was Captain. Number 2, we have a game of poker, a cruise ship, Alexander Hamilton to George Washington.
Yeah, we weren't 100% sure on this, to put it mildly, but we put hand.
Yeah, we were not sure either. We were thinking Royal Flush, Royal Caribbean Cruise, and then Royal something or other. So we said Royal.
Okay, and I'm gonna have to rule in favor here of Cuban Sandwich Crisis because I said Alexander Hamilton to George Washington. Alexander Hamilton was George Washington's right-hand man. You have deck hands on a cruise ship, and you have hands in a game of poker. The correct answer there was hand. All right, question number 3. The Big Bang Theory, Inspector Gadget, The Proud Family.
This one took us a while. We didn't really know what the Proud Family was. We thought it was a cartoon, so we had to put that one aside. And we started naming characters from Big Bang Theory, and we knew that Penny was also, I think, the daughter of Inspector Gadget, so that's what we locked in with.
Yes, we also said Penny. Penny Proud is the daughter on the Proud Family, so we locked in with Penny.
Yeah, and points to both teams there. Penny obviously being a character on Big Bang Theory, Penny being the daughter of Inspector Gadget, and Penny Proud being the title character in the Proud Family. Well done, guys.
Does that mean that Inspector Gadget has sex?
I think he's.
I wonder how he does it.
I think he did it before the horrible accident.
Go, Gadget penis.
Is that what that 8-foot extending hand is for?
If he was around nowadays, he definitely would have his own line of adult products for sure. That have to be activated by saying "Go, Gadget."
Moving on to question number 4. Currency, Pillsbury Products, Homer Simpson.
Yeah, we said dope.
Oh, we also said dough.
Yeah, so this was the first example of the homophones that I was talking about. We had a slang term for money. Pillsbury Products are pretty much all just dough, and Homer Simpson is famous for saying dough. That is correct. Question number 5. Aaron Ekblad, Mel Blanc, Chadwick Boseman.
This one took us forever because we immediately, were naming Bugs Bunny as a character and other Looney Tunes, and we didn't know who Aaron Ekblad was, and Ken was taunting us in the studio. But then we realized Mel Blanc also voiced other characters, and we think he did the Pink Panther, so we said Panther.
Yes, and by similar logic, we thought Chadwick Boseman plays the Black Panther and then the Pink Panther, so we also locked in with Panther.
Yeah, and points to both teams there. Aaron Ekblad being a star player for the Florida Panthers, Mel Blanc voicing the Pink Panther, and Chadwick Boseman playing the Black Panther. Well done, Panther was correct. All right, question number 6. A website, Sesame Street, a Jackbox party pack.
This one Neil pulled right out of his backside at the 11th hour. We said cookie.
Oh, you went cookie, and we actually went with the other part. We think that it's monster.com, the Cookie Monster, and the Jackbox Party Monster Pack. So we said monster.
So the answer that I have here is cookie, but I'm inclined to give both correct here because
If the Party Monster pack exists, then I think your hand is forced.
There is a game in the Jackbox Party Pack called Monsters Seeking Monster. The answers that I had here was websites are always trying to give you cookies. Cookie Monster obviously being a Sesame Street character, and Cookie Masterson being the host of many of the Jackbox Party Pack games. However, the monster also makes sense here, so I'm inclined to give both teams points on that
Yeah,
one.
points for everyone.
Yeah, we'll take it. We'll take it.
All right, question number 7. A scooter, an Arkansas University, a barber.
Yep, this one really was born from imagining, the Triviality boys doing some sweet tricks on a Razor scooter. So we wanted to say Razor Ramon, but we just locked in with Razor.
Yeah. The good old Razor scooter, the Razorbacks from Arkansas, and a barber uses a razor. So we said Razor.
Yeah, and Ben described those all perfectly. The correct answer there was Razor. Question number 8. A computer monitor, an obstructed hockey goaltender, a TSA agent.
Yeah, we thought the common bond here was these were all types of screens. So we put screen.
We agree 100%. We said screen.
And points to both teams. The correct answer there was screen. Question number 9. A bad golfer, Avatar: The Last Airbender, Brett Favre.
This one was a little rough. The final two gave us some trouble, but we know Brett Favre was number 4. You say 4 if you have a bad shot. We have no idea if there's a character named 4 in Avatar, but that's what we're betting on.
Oh, wow. So our answer that we locked in was flop, because we were thinking that the Avatar: The Last Airbender movie was a flop, and maybe a bad golfer would be called a flop.
So there is a shot in golf called a flop shot. However, the correct answer for this one was in fact 4. A bad golfer would yell 4. There are 4 elements that the Avatar: The Last Airbender: Earth, Water, Fire, and Air, and Brett Favre did wear number 4.
Yes, but when Brett Favre sent those pictures, it flopped out. So I think that should also come.
Man, I was just
already got a freebie.
I was just gonna make the same joke and say he sent a flop shot by cell phone.
There's room for interpretation in these answers, Bryce. We can interpret things.
All right, and the last question. Colin Kaepernick, The Young and the Restless, Triviality, the podcast.
Right, well, we were wishing or hoping or praying that Colin Kaepernick is part Dutch and that there's a character called Dutch somewhere in the Young and Restless universe, because we went with Dutch for number 10.
So for this one, I don't know if there's a character on The Young and the Restless named Neil, but everyone's favorite character on Triviality is Neil, and Colin Kaepernick kneeled for the national anthem. So unfortunately, I believe it's Neil.
And Matt is absolutely correct. Colin Kaepernick is known for kneeling for the national anthem. There is a character on The Young and the Restless named Neil, and there's also a person on the Triviality of the podcast called Neil. So Neil is the correct answer.
Just for the record, there was a character on The Young and the Restless named Dutch Lightner. I just looked it up just for the hell of it.
Is Colin Kaepernick Dutch?
I don't know.
That's a deciding factor.
He cooks his pregame meals in a Dutch oven. Can confirm.
Well, despite everybody's best efforts to steer the conversation towards penises constantly, you managed to rack up quite a bit of points as well. So after the swing round, it brings the scores to Missile Crisis at 125 and Cuban Sandwich Crisis to 130.
Okay, so for round number two, this one's actually going to be a hidden theme. So there are going to be 10 questions for this one. All of the answers are going to be related to the theme. And the first team to message me with the correct answer of the hidden theme will get a bonus 10 points at the end of the round. All right, let's go to question number one in the round. The category is A Year to Remember. What year did all of these historical events take place? The completion of the Hoover Dam, Babe Ruth hits his final major league home run, Amelia Earhart flies solo across the Pacific Ocean, the first Technicolor Mickey Mouse film is released, President Roosevelt signs the U.S. Social Security Act. Full points for an answer within 2 years, and 5 bonus points for an exact correct answer.
All right, I think we're locked in on our side.
Oh, locked in. I think I have an idea of like an area where this is. What were you thinking?
I don't know. For some reason I put down 1934 because Roosevelt was
Mhm.
president in the 30s during the Great Depression. I think he would sign something kind of mid 30s. Kind of seems like
Ye
Disney would release something in 1934 in that ballpark. Amelia Earhart too. So I said
Yeah.
1934.
Yeah, we kind of focused on the Babe Ruth part. I think his last year in the major leagues was either 35 or 36, and we just flipped a coin and went with 36.
Okay, so full points to both teams. Unfortunately, neither team getting the 5 bonus points. You guys kind of split that right down the middle. The correct answer there was 1935.
Oh, not bad.
Okay, question number two in the category names and numbers. What term is the scientific word for naming, circumscribing, and classifying groups of biological organisms based on their shared traits and characteristics? The word translates from ancient Greek to arrangement and method. Swedish botanist Carl Linnaeus is recognized as the modern day father of this biological system. However, it can be traced back to the early 1500s, where Egyptian cave paintings distinguish the differences between poisonous plants and those that are safe to consume.
So then the word that comes to mind for me is taxonomy, taxonomic taxonomy. Thinking back to my biology classes, but that's my best guess.
Yeah, and I think I was just on Turbo Taxonomy the other day. So I would agree 100%. We can lock in with taxonomy.
Yeah, I asked Dave to write down his favorite System of a Down deep cut, and we locked in with taxonomy.
Uh, and yeah, points to both teams there. The correct answer is taxonomy. Great job, guys. Okay, question number three, and the category is Looney Tunes. First voiced by Mel Blanc, this Looney Tunes character made his first on screen appearance in the 1948 cartoon titled Hair Devil Hair. The character is seen wearing an outfit typical of the Roman god in which part of his name comes from, and since his character has no actual mouth, he uses excessive body movements to portray his tone when the character speaks.
Okay. So we had previously discussed in our Mel Blanc discussion that he was Bugs Bunny, but Bugs Bunny definitely does have a mouth, so I don't think it's him.
I know I'm stumped on this one. I'm just thinking about
Gee,
Roman gods.
I think he was also Woody Woodpecker, who didn't have a mouth and did excessive body movements. He would jump
I'm fine with
around.
that answer.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I could think of. So we can lock in with Woody Woodpecker.
Yep, and we locked in with a favorite character from what was that video game, Matt? The Looney Tunes Space Jam basketball game. Anyway, I always used to play as Marvin the Martian, so that's what we locked in with.
Oh, darn.
And yeah, I can see the disgust there on Matt's face. Points there to Cuban Sandwich Crisis, the Roman god being Mars, the correct answer being Marvin the Martian.
That makes me
Well done.
very angry. Yeah, that I should have known that.
All right, and question number four, and the category is Cities of War. The Battle of what city in 1815 was one of the most important in the Hundred Days' War? The French army under Napoleon's rule was handily defeated by two of the armies representing the Seventh Coalition, under command of the Duke of Wellington. At the time, the city resided in what was once known as the United Kingdom of the Netherlands, but is now found within the borders of neighboring Belgium. A Canadian city, which bears the same name, is home to research in motion and the invention of the BlackBerry smartphone, while an American city with the same name is home to the USHL's Blackhawks of Iowa.
Well, I hope we don't meet our Waterloo tonight, Matt. I hope we don't. I hope we don't meet our Waterloo. So
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with locking in Waterloo.
Yeah, and I'm surprised there's not a single ABBA reference on here, unless there is and I missed it. But yeah, I think we can lock in with Waterloo.
Yeah, we came up with the same answer. Yeah, we also needed an ABBA reference. Well, I wrote one in my head. We put Waterloo.
Yeah, and correct answer there being Waterloo. Great job, guys.
Okay, so Neil has submitted a guess for their team as to the secret theme, but we won't reveal that on air yet, so you can still play at home.
Okay, and question number 5, and the category is urban atrocity. A 2014 lawsuit saw the residents of West Coney Island do battle with New York City over what neighborhood resource? In 2013, the city sent a crew to bulldoze the resource to make way for a new amphitheater. Residents of West Coney Island are amongst the poorest in New York City, and they heavily relied on this resource to hold events and strengthen solidarity. Sadly, this is just one example and a growing problem of the depletion of this resource in dense urban neighborhoods.
Well, in any case, I was thinking the answer for this would be a public park because parks hold events and they're crucial to um, the public good and
I
public
will
gathering.
I will agree.
What?
I think that a public park is a great answer, so we can lock in with that.
For lack of a better answer, we thought of Coney Island, thought of the boardwalk. Get your Nathan's hot dog there. We thought maybe they tore up part of the boardwalk.
Okay, and no one getting points for that one, unfortunately.
Oh, really?
The correct answer is a community garden.
Oh,
A community garden is the correct
Oh.
answer.
Hmm.
And yes, these are unfortunately, they don't make the city money, so the city is trying to get rid of them at every corner, especially in New York City. So,
All right, that brings the scores up to 155 for Missile Crisis and 170 for Sandwich Crisis.
all right, let's move on to question number 6. The category is definitely not Bonnie and Clyde. What is the name of the 1980 romantic crime film in which a small-time gangster and the estranged wife of a pot dealer find themselves flung together in an escapade of love, money, drugs, and danger? It stars Burt Lancaster and Susan Sarandon and was filmed in the same location as the title of the film.
We are going to lock in with a hunch we have over here.
Oh, Matt, do you have any hunches for this guy?
I got a few hunches because I have bad posture. So I think that this is potentially Atlantic City. So based on the theme that I think that we're picking up on, we're gonna say Atlantic City.
We had a discussion over here just about what it could be, and we kind of leaned on an answer that we thought also fit what we think the theme is, and we also said Atlantic City.
So both teams seem to have gotten the theme, and it will be 10 points for Cuban Sandwich Crisis. But again, we'll reveal that at the end. Both teams saying Atlantic City. Bryce, what's the answer?
All right, and both teams are correct. The correct answer there is Atlantic City. Well done.
And for everyone out there that's like Ken and has always wanted to see a very geriatric Burt Lancaster touch a bare-chested Susan Sarandon, rent this movie.
Why are you bringing me into this?
All right, let's move on to question number 7. And the category is We Have You Surrounded. The small island nation of Malta is completely contained within what body of water? It connects to the Atlantic Ocean through the Strait of Gibraltar, and its name translates from Latin to center of the earth. Its appearance is a much darker blue than normal due to the lack of nutrients within this body of water, leading to very little plant growth along the seafloor.
I think I have an idea.
Okay.
We can lock in.
Yep, I trust you.
Which body of water would that be?
I think it's So the Strait of Gibraltar is like at the very southern tip of Spain, which leads into the Mediterranean Sea. And Mediterranean seems like center, med, Latin again. I think Mediterranean center. So I would go with the Mediterranean Sea.
You could glean so
It's
many
all coming
answers through
together.
through knowing Latin sometimes. So yeah, we'll lock in with Mediterranean Sea.
And Dave, I think you had a very similar answer because you were wearing a hoodie when you came in here that said Latin, so you must be a scholar.
Yeah, my son is a student at the Brooklyn Latin School and teaches me many lessons on a daily basis. He didn't teach me this one, but we also put Mediterranean Sea.
All right, and once again, points to both teams. The correct answer is the Mediterranean Sea. All right, let's move on to question number 8, and the category is Never Stop Playing Games. What board game was first invented in China over 2,500 years ago and is believed to be the oldest board game that is still continuously played in present times? The goal of this strategy game is to surround more territory on the board than your opponent, typically played with the black and white pieces. Despite its simple rules, the game is extremely complex, as the number of legal positions on the board has been calculated to approximately 2.1 times 10 to the power of 170, far more than the number of atoms in the observable universe.
Okay, the other team is locked in. Dave, you said you had a thought about this one.
Yeah, I think this is. There's the game of Go, which is like it's black and white tiles, and you flip them over, and if you create a line with black on both ends, then the whole line goes black. I forget what it's called when you buy it at like Toys R Us or whatever.
Oh, I mean, Go seems like a good answer to me. It's fitting right in with what we're thinking the theme is, and it makes sense. So let's lock it in.
Okay, good.
Yeah. I was gonna let you go first, but I guess I'll go, and we'll say go. It's go.
All right, yeah, and the clue there being in the category of never stop playing games, the correct answer is Go. Well done, guys. All right, and let's move on to question number 9, and the category is before and after. So I'm going to be giving you 2 clues meshed together. There will be 2 answers. The last word of the first answer is the same as the first word of the last answer. All right, so the name of the maneuver that 72% of people state to be the hardest part of their driving test is also a 2008 reality television show on A&E, which starred the likes of Steve Garfield and Sherry Royal, who were actual employees of the department that the show followed and not paid actors.
All right, we think we have an idea here. We know what we're talking about. We're not sure if we have the right, answer or clue, but we're gonna lock in with it.
Ben, are you a good parallel parker?
Oh, I'm the master. Living in Boston, you gotta learn how to do that.
Yeah, and I'm sure
There's no escaping it. But
avoiding the meter maids is also a problem. So, what do you think about parallel parking wars?
that sounds amazing. I got a ticket the other day, unfortunately, but I'm glad. I'm glad we got the answer to this. So.
Well, that's okay.
I lost the war.
Longer.
I win battles, but I lose the war. Yep. Well, I'm great with locking in with that.
Yeah.
We said parallel parking wars.
Yeah, so parallel parking, something I don't think I've done since my driving test when I was 17, and Parking Wars being the absolutely trash television show on A&E. The correct answer there being Parallel Parking Wars. Great job, guys. Okay, and the final question of the round, the category is Homegrown Talent. What American musician made history by becoming the first artist to win a Grammy Award for an album that was available only on streaming platforms? His album Coloring Book won the 2017 Grammy Award for Best Rap Album, receiving over 50 million streams of its songs during the first week on Apple Music. His production quality sure has come a long way from his first mixtape, 10 Day, which he recorded entirely during a 10-day school suspension using free equipment at the Chicago Public Library.
I am 100% sure that this is Chance the Rapper, local
Oh yes,
Chicago.
you're right. Yes. Okay. I don't know why I'm thinking of Logic, but okay, I trust you, Matt.
He's good. He's a good rapper too. Well, we're gonna lock it with Chance the Rapper.
Matt's wearing the 3 hat right now.
He is
Every day.
supporting the local talent. Yeah, Ben had some logic there. It just wasn't the correct logic, but Matt saved him a little bit. And we also said Chance the Rapper.
So Logic is probably one of my favorite rappers, but no, you guys got the points there. Correct answer is Chance the Rapper. Well done.
Now, as we mentioned before, the Cuban Sandwich Crisis did guess the correct mystery theme several rounds ago. But Bryce, you want to tell everybody what that was?
Absolutely. So I'm going to run through the important words in each of those answers. So the important words there were 1935, tax, Marvin, water, community, Atlantic City, Mediterranean, go, parking, and chance. And the correct theme being Jeff's favorite board game, Monopoly.
And that brings our scores for Missile Crisis up to 205, a very respectable score, but racking up 60 points in that second half is Cuban Sandwich Crisis, 230 points.
Okay, so sticking with the Monopoly theme here, the final 5 categories are 5 of the pieces in the game Monopoly. The categories are cannon, top hat, iron, battleship, and boot.
The wagers are locked in, and to quote Mr. David Nelson, math is for losers. I know several very cool mathematicians who would beg to differ. And like I said, both teams going 30s all the way down. Nobody wanted to think about it. It's going to be a slugfest. So let's get the questions.
All right. So, question number 1 in the category of cannon. Nick Cannon is an American entertainer who's probably more well known for his multitude of children than his many television accolades. Cannon has fathered 12 children over the last 12 years, with 6 different mothers, including everyone's favorite singer in December, Mariah Carey, and the star of Selling Sunset, Brie Tiesi. On a recent episode of The Howard Stern Show, the two had a conversation about who Nick Cannon's next baby mama could be, when Stern suggested, which recently single American singer? Cannon quickly replied with, "Absolutely, I'm in, let's go," before going on to talk about how amazing of a songwriter she is and how open and vulnerable she is with her music. Question number 2 in Top Hat. The top hat dates back to the late 18th century and was a pinnacle part of Western formal wear for many years. Top hats were typically made of black silk, though some were even made using beaver pelts. Top Hat is also the name of a 1935 musical screwball comedy film, which was later adapted into a musical production in 2011. The original 1935 film starred which American dancer, who has often been called the greatest popular music dancer of all time? Born in Omaha, Nebraska in 1899 to parents of German and Austrian descent, he changed his last name from Austerlitz to his current name in order to disassociate from the battle during the Napoleonic Wars with the same name. Question number 3 in the category of iron. Iron is element number 26 on the periodic table and gets its abbreviation Fe from the Latin word for iron, ferrum. Iron alloys such as steel and cast iron are some of the most commonly used metals in industrial work due to its abundance and low cost. In fact, iron is the most abundant element on Earth by mass, slightly edging out oxygen. What percentage of the Earth's mass is made of iron? Full points for an answer within 3% on either side. Question number 4 in Battleship. Battleship is a strategy type guessing game which traces back to the days of World War I. It was originally played on pads of paper with pencils before Milton Bradley produced a plastic board game version in 1967. Each player hides 5 different ships on their side of the grid, and players take turns trying to sink their opponent's ships by guessing spaces on the grid. With all of the ships in play, how many blank spaces remain on a player's grid during a game of Battleship? And question number 5 in Boot. The Golden Boot is an award given out each year to the top goal scorer from a Division I European football league during league matches. The last 2 Golden Boots were won by Robert Lewandowski of Bayern Munich, joining a small list of footballers to win multiple Golden Boot awards. But which footballer holds the record for the most Golden Boots won, cleaning up an impressive 6 wins during their career? They won all 6 of their awards playing for the same club team in the Spanish La Liga.
All right, we have our questions. The teams will think about these answers. We'll catch some messages, and we'll be right back.
Have you ever wondered what really happened to Amelia Earhart or the lost colony of Roanoke? Do you ever find yourself scouring the internet for vicious Victorians and their murders by gaslight? Or perhaps you're just sick and tired of women being constantly misrepresented or plain lied about throughout history? If so, join me, Katie Charlwood, history harlot and reader of books, on Who Did What Now, the history podcast that's not your history class. Part of the Airwave Media Network. Available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Adios, au revoir, au revoir, my friends. Bye-bye. I'll be seeing you.
If you enjoy bizarre true stories, then the Useless Information Podcast is the podcast for you. For example, did you know that author Robert Louis Stevenson gave his birthday away? Or that there was a football team that played for 6 years before someone realized that the school never ever existed? Or that a dog in upstate New York was once placed on trial for murder? Well, to hear these and hundreds of additional fascinating true stories from the Flipside history, be sure to check out the Useless Information Podcast. That's the Useless Information Podcast, podcasting worldwide since 2008 and available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening right now. Be sure to check it out.
And we are back, and it's time to find out who will be the cream of the crop. If we could have the questions one more time, and we'll find out what the answers are.
Okay, so the question in the first category of canon, on Howard Stern's show, the two had a conversation about who Nick Cannon's next baby mama could be when Stern suggested what recently single American singer.
We think this would be Taylor Swift.
Yep, I think that's what they would be talking about on a Howard Stern show. We said Taylor Swift.
Yeah, and Nick's trying real hard to get her on his new talk show, The Daily Canon, but I don't think that's going to go very well after this interview. The correct answer there being Taylor Swift. Okay, question number 2 in the category of Top Hat. So, Top Hat was the name of the 1935 musical screwball comedy film, which was later adapted into a musical production in 2011. And that film starred which American dancer, who has been called the greatest popular music dancer of all time?
Yeah, we were pretty sure this one is Fred Astaire.
All right. We also locked in with the dancer Fred Astaire.
Yeah, and both teams nailing that one. The correct answer was Fred Astaire. All right, and question number 3 in the category of iron. So, what percentage of the Earth's mass is made of iron? And I'll give full points here for an answer within 3%.
Yeah, we broke out the vernier calipers and the slide rules for some very heavy calculations using the wild ass guess formula, and we came up with 26%.
All right. We used less instruments and machinery and venture to guess that was close to that. And we said 30%, 30.
And points going to Cuban Missile Crisis. The correct answer is 32%.
Wow.
32%.
Ooh.
Okay, question number 4 in Battleship. With all ships in play, how many blank spaces remain on a player's grid during a game of Battleship?
Yeah, so we thought there were 5 ships, 1 space, 2 spaces, 3 spaces, 4 spaces, and 5 spaces, and then that adds up to 15. Maybe there's overall 100 spaces on the board, so we said 85.
All right. We guessed that there was a 5-space ship, a 4-space ship, 2 3-space ships, and a 2-space ship. And we thought there were 64 8x8 grid on the game. So 17 minus 64 or 64 minus 17 would be 47. So our answer is 47.
All right, and unfortunately, no points here. This was probably the hardest question that I had in this final round. Both teams, however, funny enough, getting half of the answer correct. You are correct, Cuban Missile Crisis. There are 17 spaces covered by ships, 5, 4, 3, 3, and 2. And Cuban Sandwich Crisis, there is 100 spaces on the grid, the farthest right bottom space being J10. So yeah, the correct answer there was 83.
Yeah, we tossed around it. It just felt like it was too many empty spaces.
I know, it felt too big. I thought it was 8x8.
I guess math isn't for losers, it's for everybody.
All right, and the final question in the category of boot. What footballer holds the record for the most Golden Boots won, cleaning up an impressive 6 wins during their career?
So we went through a couple of possibilities here. At first, we thought it might be Cristiano Ronaldo, but we know that he played several years in Italy as well. So we just came around to what maybe is the obvious guess, and we went with Leo Messi.
Mm-hmm. I believe he did it for Barcelona. We said Messi.
Yeah, and the subtle hint there being that he cleaned up because it was
Oh.
Messi. The correct answer is Lionel Messi.
All right, stunning finisher here in the final round. Looks like with 260 points, a very strong finishing for Cuban Sandwich Crisis, but Missile Crisis edges them out by performing admirably with 295. You are today's cream of the crop.
The cream of the crop! Nobody does it better.
Missiles beat sandwiches. What a surprise.
Who would have thought?
Well, great job today to both teams. Stunning finish there. Bryce, excellent questions. Let's start with you. Any last shout outs or thank yous to send out there?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I just want to shout out you guys for having me on the podcast. Like I mentioned, I'm a fairly new listener. I've only started listening a few months ago, but I've probably almost listened to your entire catalog so far. So it was great meeting you, gentlemen, and I had a great time today. I do want to thank the play testers that helped me with this game, my wife, Alex, my little brother, Van, the people that reached out to me on Instagram, Lydia and David, and the people that reached out to me on Discord, Scoogy, Rick, What's Her Face 6, Born Identity, and of course, Playtester Pro Louie. And
all right.
Go Leafs Go. Hopefully by the time this podcast airs, we're already planning the Leafs Cup parade. So,
okay. All right. We'll see what happens. And let's toss it over to Ben. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks for your listenership. Any last words?
Yes, thank you so much for having me on this podcast. I had such a wonderful, fun time. It's a great honor to play on this show. Ken, Matt, Neil, and Jeff, keep doing what you're doing. Thank you all my students. Shout out to all my bandmates in Midnight Motion. If you want to follow us, we're Midnight Motion Band, all one word, on Instagram. Thank you to all my comedians, and thank you to all the listeners. And thanks for having me again, proud patron. And be kind to each other and be kind to yourself.
Yep, wise words indeed. Thank you very much for joining us today. And lastly, David, thanks for joining us in the studio and coming all the way to Chicago just for this.
Yeah, well, it's almost literally the least I could do, fellas. Bryce, thank you for writing a great game, including a CanCon round that somehow did not involve Anne Murray. I thought it was a great quiz all around. I had a lot of fun. Thank you, gentlemen, for inviting me here to this exquisitely climate-controlled room. And look forward to coming back at some point when I'm next in Chicago.
All right. Well, thank you all. We want to thank Airwave Media as well. They are our network. You can check out other great shows on airwavemedia.com, such as the Pirate History Podcast, Redacted History, and Tumble, Science Podcast for Kids. And that'll do it for our show today. Once again, I want to thank Bryce, Ben, and David for joining us. For Neil, Matt, Jeff, who's not here, and myself, that was Triviality.